Welcome to another week of Living a Rich Life. I am your host, Rich James. Here on Living a Rich Life talk show, we inform, inspire, and encourage each other to follow the 6 elements of Living a Rich Life Network. Those elements are good health, strong relationships, financial freedom, goals and achievement, extraordinary experiences, and philanthropy. We all have a story, and today's guest is no different. With that being said, let's talk about it. Today's guest, he believes that entrepreneurship and fashion are tools to impact lives. Please welcome husband, father, entrepreneur extraordinaire, the CEO of Fearless, Mr. Dalali, Dzirasa?
Dzirasa, I was gonna make you fight for it, man. What's gonna help you?
Oh, I love it, Dzirasa. So that's a very unique name in itself. Tell folks where you're originally from.
Yeah, so both my parents were born in Ghana, so West Africa. And my mom ended up going to school in the UK, my dad in the States, and all of us were born here. So I was born in DC. It's funny. I didn't love having an ethnic name, growing up. Now I love it. I love it, man. It's part of my identity. It's a nod to where I come from.
Absolutely. Well said. And again, it's unique in itself. And does it have a meaning?
Yeah, it means my Redeemer lives.
Facts. I love it.
James, liveth.
I love it. I love it. So let's get right into it. So tell us first and foremost how Fearless got started.
Yeah. So Fearless got started in 2009. It had been a dream of mine for years to go into business, right? Ever since a kid, hustling, trying to make money, knocking door to door, finding odds and ends to just to make money and to make sure we can afford the things that we wanted in life at that age. So fast forward, I feel like the hustle was kind of there. I really was interested in 3 things, pretty heavily as a kid: business, technology, and people. And not really knowing how all of those things might come together effectively, how it was supposed to work. I ended up going to school for computer engineering, so I studied engineering in school. While I was there, they launched at UMBC. They launched an entrepreneurship program. And that entrepreneurship program, it was the nuts and the bolts of how do you run a business. I didn't know anything about that. So I didn't know anything about a business plan and marketing plan and projections. I just knew if I knocked on enough houses, at some point someone's gonna pay me to do something, right?
Right.
And that's all I knew at that point, right? So to get a little bit of the formal piece was good. Ended up graduating, worked for a couple of small companies, had great mentors, and that really propelled me and got me positioned to where Fearless was born. Fearless overall is the blending of all of those things, right? Business, technology, people. My mom is a retired nurse, so growing up, she was big about empathy. How do you give back and how do you support your fellow man? My dad is a software engineer also, so we learned how to program as kids. So kind of both of those influences, I think, played a big role in Fearless. Really, we're in the space of providing tech for good. We call it building software with the soul.
Okay. I never, my phone's ringing. I never understand why folks call me there. I'm on the air, folks. I'm live.
Yeah.
So that I love that story. I love that. Let's dig into that a little deeper now. What are some of the services that Fearless provides?
Yeah. So Fearless, when someone has a custom software solution, they tend to call us. So we've got a couple of businesses. So I can talk about them a little bit later, right? So Fearless will call the core of what we do is in technology. Everything from human-centered design. So when you want something which is more than just, how do you make it look pretty, right? And put some nice graphics on it. It really is everything around how do you know you're even solving the right problem? How do you know this is what people actually want? How do you know it's going to work? And so how do we go out and we prototype things very quickly? We create a way in space in which we're getting users' input up front to deliver the solutions that we have. From there, we go into engineering, right? So that's another vertical of ours. So building capability from really small prototypes, baby applications, to we've got applications and tools that span millions of users in the user base. And then from there, products, right? So how do we think about product? Where's this thing going? There's a lot of stakeholders you have to get on board anytime you're releasing anything in the technical space. So how do you align them? How do you create roadmaps? for those things and help an organization understand how to get adoption for that particular technology. So we do all of that under one roof within Fearless Technology, our core business.
Okay. So one of the things that my team, one of my team members brought back to me, and it kind of resonated with them. Again, I used to do programming.
Yeah.
I did a little Pascal, a little C+, a little COBOL.
Yeah, you're dating yourself.
Facts. One thing that they mentioned, and they came up with this question, was what do you mean when you say we build software with a soul?
Yeah. So when we think about that, right, and I need to talk about the mission, that's the mission along with the vision, which is to create a world where good software powers things that matter. And so right now we're on Zoom, we're using technology, your audience is watching this and they're soaking it in. You know, if you pick up your phone, you've got apps on apps on apps, right? So all that stuff is, so we're used to leveraging technology and that stuff just kind of works, right? We don't have an instruction manual for Zoom or for IG or whatever it is, right? It's intuitive and it just works. But when you think about technology that are in spaces that we think really matter in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about social justice, we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about education, like those kind of really meaty missions, nonprofit work, right? Everything that really touches and helps people, it is not the same technology that powers that world, right? That space is typically last on the totem pole when it comes to like technical innovation. They're last on the totem pole when it comes to like technical investment as far as dollars and resources. And so we exist to be that tech for good company in that space. And so we bring that same cutting edge technology you expect in the commercial space into these mission sets that we think really matter.
That's, you said something very profound to me, in my opinion. The fact that, again, there's no instructions for some of that stuff and how it really impacts just the same, to the Zoom, to the IG. That's deep. And that's really what's driving Fearless. Now, how did you come up with the name Fearless?
Yes. So Fearless, the name comes from a couple of reasons. One, I tell people all the time now, I felt like I'd been prepped to do this my whole life, right? From hustling when I was young, all these little odds and ends businesses that I had kind of as a kid growing up, to some formal training in undergrad and studying technology and studying entrepreneurship. But I tell you, when it came time to do this thing, even with all the mentorship I had, I was terrified, right? I was terrified to actually jump, quit my job. I got a young kid at home, wife looking me in the eyes, and I'm gonna quit my job and go try this thing out. So one reason was, it really was a thing where if you see the word fearless every single day, right, it helps you to confront that fear, right? It helps to build that confidence over time. And so the name was deeply personal from that respect. A second thing was, I wanted something that was going to stand out, right? When you look at, especially in the market in which we started, we were doing a lot of DoD and Intel work early on. I kind of came out of that world. And, it's really just the acronym soup, ABC, corporation, so-and-so, technologies, you kind of see all of that.
Right.
And man, you look down that sheet, you see the word, company name Fearless, you're going to pause for a second and say, well, who's that? What's that company about? And many conversations started around the name. So it really was something that we needed to stand out, and really a reminder for us to not be afraid to do stuff different, right? Not be afraid to look a little different, sound a little different, and kind of beat to our own drum.
Facts. I love it. And I do definitely, because you've been around for a while, and I've been watching you make moves. I think we met several years ago at another event, and I always like to keep my eyes open on the movers and shakers and folks doing things. And when I said Fearless, I said, oh, okay, yeah, that sits right. I like that. That's catchy. Now, one of my team members, again, because they put this package together, they provide me with the research. It's always good to have a great team.
Yeah.
One of my team members said, what is that logo?
Yeah.
How did you come up with that logo, right? We all have logos for different things, but what does your logo represent?
So this is iteration number 2. So the one that I came up with when we first started, it's vintage now. They retired it. Our brand person came along and we had to retire it. But when you look at this emblem that's on my chest, and that's really what we think of it as. And we really want this to be synonymous to impact, right? Kind of the uniform of impact in general. It's actually 2 mirrored Fs that are here. And you have one that's facing backwards, and that really is a reminder. When we think about tech in particular, and this spans to what we're doing for the sports and fashion and some of the other places. But every one of us has a past, has a place that we've come from, right? And we've got a journey that we've been a part of this journey over time that's gotten us to a point. And we all have somewhere that we're going. That's the F that's facing forward, that we're reaching towards or grasping for. We got a dream, we've got passion, all of this stuff. And this part that really sits in the middle is what connects the two. And we think everyone has the opportunity, decision to say, I got to make a choice. It's a fork in the road. I can go left or I can go right. And we want people to move forward, right? And so for us, it's how do we partner with people in their journey and help, one, pay homage to where they come from, but help guide them to where they're going, right? And that's true in tech. That's true in life in general. And so that's what we embody, right? So when you look at this, that is the message behind it. And if you take kind of a big step back, right, you will see our nod to a cow in here. And that story comes from a book called The Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And it really was transformational in my early thinking as the company was getting off the ground. And he talks about this, he's a marketing guy, right? He talks about this concept of none of us really pay a lot of attention to brown cows. We see them all the time. We pass them all the time. You're driving down the country, you see a cow, whatever it is, there's nothing really special or remarkable about a purple cow, but a brown cow. But if you see a purple cow, now that's gonna say something, right? You're gonna pause, you're gonna tell somebody, you're gonna call somebody, you're gonna put it on social media. And so we really adopted that. So which is why you see purple on a bunch of our pieces. It's really our nod to, we gotta be different, we gotta be remarkable, right? And bring that level of excellence to everything we do and let that speak.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're definitely purple cow. And I saw some of that in some of the research that came back. So again, so Fearless, is a software company, right? Yes. Would you say it's a combination, but what makes Fearless different from other software companies?
Yeah, I think three things make us different. We look at life through the lens of three different pillars. Number one, it is our culture. And that culture is everything that we think about internally within the organization, right? How do we make a company that is so incredibly sticky that people love being a part of it, they want to be a part of it, not feel like they have to be. And sometimes you feel like you're stuck, like, oh, I have to be here, right? And like I'm stuck in this job, right? We don't want anyone to feel like that. We want them to want to be there. And we've got a couple of things that we're looking at from a culture perspective. And one is we think very heavily about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we've got goals internally around how do we become one of the top, cultures, and how do we track that against benchmark that across other companies similar size and scale. And we're tracking 50% of our workforce being women, 50% of our workforce being minority. So it's a goal we have before 25. And so we think about those things and embed belonging and people bringing themselves to the table in our culture every day. So that's one thing that makes us a little bit different. But there's some companies that do that. The second one is from a customer perspective. We are really well known about, we will partner with you wherever you are in your transformation journey, right? And so it doesn't matter if you talk about COBOL, if you're going from COBOL to just trying to get off a mainframe, to you're trying to build a mobile app, to you're trying to build, leverage AI, it doesn't really matter. Everyone is somewhere along in their journey. And so we can partner with them. And so the customer piece is everything that we should say. We want to be better, faster, stronger, cheaper, all of those things. But we also want you to do that work through the lens of equity and the lens of creating a world that, again, is powered by good tech, right? And so empathy is a big part of how we think about customers. Mm-hmm. The last one is community. And for us, we're headquartered out of Baltimore. If Fearless grows and we begin to thrive and do well, and Baltimore is no different as a result of us being here, that's a fail, right? Mm-hmm. And so for us, being able to partner with our city to be able to help move it forward in its transformation is important to us. And that includes supporting STEM-based initiatives. That includes how we help to stitch together the tech ecosystem here within Baltimore and really try to lead by example. So we punch way above our weight, right? As far as concerned. And so are we the only company that's doing good stuff culture-wise? No. Are we the only company that's doing great stuff for customers? No. Are we the only company that's doing good stuff for the community? Absolutely not, right? But are we the best at doing all three of those better than anybody else in the tech sector in the world? Yes. I don't think anyone can touch us doing those things hand down because we believe it and it's in our DNA.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, again, just from sitting down, doing some research and watching you move, watching your team move, looking at your website. And again, sometimes you have to dig a little deeper to really understand exactly what, an organization and what a person is doing, which I think is key. It kind of goes to when I think about living a rich life with, Rich James. I've done some changing, you grow, but at the end of the day, how's that all connect? What are you leaving behind? What does your legacy look like? Are you making a change? Because again, I've grown over the last 3 years, but at the end of the day is, like you said, if you're not making an impact on Baltimore, and Fearless has grown, and I do believe that there's an impact as well. That's key. So I will commend you on that, brother, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks.
A few things you mentioned as the leader of the organization, as the CEO. What's your overall philosophy for leading your organization?
I think the biggest philosophy that I have is you got to lead by example, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't ask anyone to do nothing I'm not willing to do, right? So I'm not big on titles and all of this other stuff, right? So any given day, you'll see me picking stuff off the floor, right? We just need to get it done. Your projects, you got a big deliverable. What do you need from me, right? You need food, you need me to task, whatever you need me to do, like put me in the game, right? I'm here to make sure that I'm helping our team be successful. So I very much believe in the concept of servant leadership. So I'm here to serve this organization and get out of the way to make sure they can do what it is that they love. They're not here just to push and to drive my dream, right? I'm also here to make sure they fulfill everything they have and all their dreams. And so those things will intersect for a period of time. For some people, it's a short period of time. For others, it's much longer, but that's okay. But I'm just as committed to their dream as they are to mine. And we do it together, right? This is the world we're trying to create.
Oh, that's what's up, which leads me to this next question. Because again, at some point, and I'm big on no matter what your title is, it doesn't matter. If you treat me a certain way, you get that same, because that's just my character. And again, if I need to wear many hats, which I do wear many hats, just like yourself, that's key. However, playing devil's advocate, there is a time where there's that big decision that needs to come. And as the quote unquote CEO and leader of the organization, what is your approach to making those big picture decisions?
Yeah. I think part of the role of the CEO and one of the most important things is to carry out that vision, right? Cast vision and make sure people are very clear on the vision and where we're going. So I always have to be at least 2 to 3 years ahead of the company. What's coming, what's happening. And so there's a lot of stuff that's in front of their face today, and they have to execute. We have to deliver on our goals and our milestones and all those pieces today. But I have to think about what's coming next and what's next and what's next and how do I prepare us for it. Mm-hmm. And so there's times when people may not see it, but that's my job, right? My job to see the vision, be able to clearly articulate it so that we can move forward. And in those cases, there might be decisions that need to be made to say, yeah, I know you're not saying it yet, but I'm telling you, in 2 years from the issue, we have to start pivoting in this direction, right? And being okay with that, right? And it's something I think that I've done throughout my career. I'm the kind of person where I'm always all in, right? So you don't want to play cards with me, right? You don't want to bet with me, any of that stuff, right? I'm like every hand, all the chips are in, every single hand, right? And I think that's just how I live, right? If I believe something, I'm making a bet all in every time, right? And that's how we're able to get so much stuff done. But it is about vision and helping to drive and make sure that we're aligned for that vision long term.
How would you rate the importance of transparency as a CEO?
It's huge. It's huge. I think as a CEO, you kind of get up there and you assume that people don't know all your warts and all your mistakes and all that stuff. So you lead with that. I am a terrible people manager. I know it. They know it. It is no surprise, and so we don't try to be surprised about it, right? And so I'm very comfortable in my own skin. I know who I am, and I'm okay about the things that I've got superpowers in. I lead and try to add value to the organization, and the things that I don't, I need to learn, right? So if you're an intern, cool, teach you something. What can I learn from you? How can I grow? How can you help me? How can I help you? And so I think it's really big to be able to show up that way. But transparency is huge. In fact, one of our internal core values is open dialogue, right? And it's all about transparency. You you can open your mouth and say whatever to whomever anytime. I'm not saying say whatever, but you know what I mean. You should add your perspective. You should add your input. You don't need to go through 15 chains of folks. And am I allowed to say this? Am I allowed to bring an idea? And it's okay to be vulnerable, but you've got to see that demonstrated. And that means when I'm wrong, I'm quick to say, hey, that was a bad idea. My mistake, my bad, right? And keep it moving, right? And I think if you show enough of that and you make enough of those emotional investments in people, they will follow you.
Nice. So for those that are just tuning in, and watching or either listening and or doing both. We are with the CEO of Fearless, Delali, Dzirasa. Woo, good gosh, Dzirasa. Oh, I love it, I love it. And we're talking all things tech, we're talking all things Fearless, we're talking leadership, and we're having some pretty good conversation. Tell us, how can our audience stay connected with you and your organization?
Yeah, so there's three parts to what we do, right? So we've been talking a lot about our core business, for lack of better words, Fearless Tech, right? And what it is that we do. So we're at fearless.tech. We're at Fearless Be More on all social media. That's kind of one lane. So we build custom applications, a lot for public sector. We talked about that. The second thing is Hutch. So we bumped our knees, skinned our knee a bunch of times over the years, and we've learned some things as a result. And so we created Hutch, which is an incubator, right? It's a digital services startup studio. So for mainly focused on women-owned entrepreneurs, mainly focused on minority-based entrepreneurs that want to start tech companies in the services space. And so it's a 2-year program, and they can follow us through that, and they can catch us out at hutchstudio.io. And I think we're at Hutch Studios everywhere, but you can find it off the Fearless page as well. And we're growing new tech companies. So our goal is to grow at least 25 of them before 2025. And we're about, I think, 15 or 16 in. So that's the second piece. We're at hutchstudio.io. The third thing that is kind of within our universe is Fearless Sports, and that's the apparel arm, the sister company. So all these are individual pieces, and we're at fearless.co. And again, all of these you think about, they're all around social impact. And for that, we're really trying to figure out how we can leverage fashion as a tool, not just, you want to look good and feel good, but it's how do you then use that as a hook for empowering people, right, to transform their communities as a whole. So they can check us out at fearless.tech, fearless.co, and at hutchstudio.io.
Nice. Thank you for that. Please, folks, be sure to catch Fearless and all their social media. And if you need to get a hold of them, you can DM me, IM me, and I'll make sure that you get the information that you need. Question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's your superpower?
What is my superpower?
Everyone has a superpower. I ask, so Dalali, I ask 2 questions always. This is one of them. What is your superpower?
Yeah, it is vision, and it is creating. So for me, you give me a blank canvas and I'm in heaven, right? Let me dream up a new thing, a new concept, a new business, a new idea. And I get excited about that. I'm figuring out, how do I get this working? How do I need to plug these people in? How do I get people aligned to it, right? I am in absolute heaven. I love that. I love the startup process. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a community initiative. It could be a startup company. It could be in the tech space, fashion space. That is my superpower, right? Getting something off the ground. Now, I'm not the person you want me to sustain it, right? But you want something new off the ground and get some buzz, some energy. That is my superpower, hands down. I think the second, a close second to that is because I'm such a big believer in starting and creating, moving things. I'm also really passionate about getting people to do the same for themselves, right? So what is it? Figure out what people are passionate about and pushing them to do that thing where if you ain't done it, you're gonna ignore me. You're gonna try to duck me, right? And say, I was gonna ask me about my passion, and have I done my thing, and am I moving forward? And that's just, I just love that. I think we're here for such a short period of time in life where we owe it to ourselves and to the whole world to bring our gift to the world, right? And so I'm a big believer in that, and I push people to do that.
Absolutely. What's next for Fearless?
Yeah, what's next for Fearless is us. We talked about those three things, and what we're thinking about now is this idea of you've got Fearless Tech, you've got Hutch, you've got Fearless Sports. How do you then think of this as an entire Fearless enterprise, right? That are all connected. What is the underlying story that connects these themes together? How do we create synergies between the companies so that all of them are better as a result of being connected to one another? And so we're dreaming that up right now. What can that look like? So that's one piece that we're thinking about. A second thing is to date, we are a little different than most of our competitors, especially within the Fearless Tech in that space in general. And that so many of them have been remote first companies since day one, meaning they hire from everywhere. They've always been hiring from everywhere. So we got 2 people in this state, 3 people in that state. Fearless was a bit unique in that we've always had a very local presence with the community in Baltimore. We've got a small satellite office in Montgomery, Alabama as well. And so there are pros and cons to that. When you think about recruitment, for instance, right, it's easier to recruit if you have the entire country as your application, your candidate pool, right?
Right.
The more layers you add, the more restricted, the harder it is to penetrate potentially. But I'd argue that it makes retention harder, right? You hire from everywhere, they don't feel as much of a connection, right? And so we've seen some people that have issues with that. So what we're thinking about now is this model of how do we create different hubs across the country where all of Fearless shows up, right? So we're not remote first, but we're creating these spaces that think about those three things again, right? Culture, customer, and community. And it means something when Fearless comes to your city, right? Fearless comes to your city, you know you're getting a company that's going to deliver good work. You know you're getting a company that's going to have good services, and it's going to create a space where people can belong and show up the way that they need to show up. You know you're getting an organization that is helping to start new companies and invigorate that tech community here that's there. You know you're getting a company that's bringing kind of the fashion side and be helping to activate entrepreneurs and people that want to chase their dreams. And so we want that to mean something. So we're trying to figure out what that looks like. How do we put this thing in a bottle? How do we then put it in another city and scale from there?
Absolutely, absolutely. And now for the other question that I always love to ask my guests, what does living a rich life mean to you?
Yeah, living a rich life means to me the love and support of my family, I think, is the first one, and being able to serve them in return. That is kind of the big piece for me. I'm also a man of faith. And so for me, I believe that each one of us is put here for a reason, right? So if I can tap into what I feel like God's called me to do, and I do that, that's a rich life, right? I'm only working for one set of applause, right? And so it doesn't really matter what other people may think of me. I'm doing what I feel like I'm called to do. And so that's a rich life. And the third one, I think in general, is about service, right? This isn't about me. I do this because I care about people, right? And I want people to feel empowered. I want technology to work for people, right? And so especially in the public sector, if it doesn't work and we're paying for it, right, there's a miss, right? And people can't do what they need to do, right? So I want that stuff to work well, and I want people to be activated to chase their dreams. And so for me, being able to serve them is a rich life. So my family, my faith, and being the service.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what would you say to our viewers? What advice? Sometimes I hate to use the word advice. What advice? What message would you share to our viewers that are looking to, again, from an entrepreneur perspective, whether it's getting to the software industry? What advice would you give our viewers?
Just start. Right? There's so many things that we think about before starting a new enterprise, a new venture, a new whatever it is. And I'm not saying I'm not a fan of, go research and do your homework. You should do those things, but you got to start. Don't be in this research phase for 5 years, 10 years, and you're thinking about it, and one day I'm going to get there. Start. Literally do something every single day. If it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, and keep chipping away at it, right? The issue is we get in these spaces where we don't want to talk to somebody about the idea. Oh, someone's going to steal my idea. They're going to steal my concept. They're not, right? And run and just get started, right? And you're going to learn, and you're going to fail, and you're going to stumble, and you're going to pivot, and you're going to do it again. And you're going to learn, and you're going to fail, and you're going to stumble, and you're going to pivot, and you're going to do it again, right? And as you do those things, you're learning more about the concept. What's viable? What's not? What does the market actually want? And the more you do that, you just need cycles. Because the cycles bring clarity to what it is your vision is, and you're much more likely to get there once you actually start. But you won't get there if you're just sitting and sitting on it. It just doesn't happen, right? You need the market feedback in order to refine whatever it is you're working on.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I appreciate your message. I appreciate you sharing your story. During this time, there's something we call Living a Rich Life closing remarks. And would appreciate if you stuck around for that.
Okay.
All right. So folks that are just tuning in and watching, we had a good discussion with Dalali, Dzirasa. My brain just don't be Dzirasa. Oh goodness, I apologize. Don't judge me. Charge it to my head, not my heart. But this is what we call Living a Rich Life closing remarks. And with that being said, ever ask yourself, what is happiness, or wonder how to be happy? Happiness can be different things to each and every one of us. I believe if you find a sense of purpose, and we talked about that today, you will live longer, have stronger relationships, and ultimately a high degree of happiness. Happiness can be something that we all obtain. However, that is not always the case, and everyone is not always happy for you. Whatever happiness is to you, be happy. It drives some people crazy. Thank you, Dalali, for sharing your story. If you have an inspiring story, please contact us at our website, livingarich.life.net. Until next week, I ask you to continue to be inspired to live a rich life. This is Rich James saying goodnight, and thank you for tuning in to BeExposedRadio.com. Be inspired to live a rich life. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, that was beautiful, sir.
Thank you, man.